and welcome to the Art of Decluttering podcast. I'm your host, Amy Revell, and I'm here again this week with Chantal Imbach from Photos in Order. I was going to say from the Art of Decluttering, because whenever I say from, it's always followed by that, but no, you are not from the Art of Decluttering.
Not quite.
Photos in Order.
That's right.
Last week, Chantal, we talked to all things digital photos, and then this week we're going to talk all things physical photos. What is your favourite thing about physical photos?
Oh, that's a good question. Probably the fact that they are physical, they're tangible. I can hold them in my hands. It is different, I find. When you compare it to digital photos.
What's the worst thing about physical photos?
Oh, the worst thing? I don't know. What's the worst thing about physical photos? It depends a bit whether I think about, from a client's perspective or from an organizer's perspective.
Yeah, go from the client perspective because yours will be well organized.
Yeah, from an organizer's perspective is like dirty photos or photos glued to the back of a page.
Yes.
If you want to take stuff apart. I think from a personal perspective, but that's also applicable for digital photos, but maybe more so for physical photos because they tend to be older photos. I think when you don't know the context in which they were taken, or if you don't know the story that goes with the photo, because when we think about photos, the reason we take them is usually we want to hold on to a moment, we want to tell a story, and if you've lost that story or you don't have access to it, that's what I find then harder. Or it's just like, you look at it's usually the very old photos where you would look at them and say, I don't know anything about that person. I possibly don't even know the name. And that's sort of sad in a way.
Do you think that perhaps we need to get better as, and I'm going to say as parents, but maybe it's everyone, of taking more videos and storing them somewhere? Like I'm not great at taking like a 10-second video and going, hey, this is Elijah for his first day of school. He's going into year 9 this year. Because I'm not as good at backing up and doing all of that stuff with those little videos. Or what's the solution?
Me neither. Look, to be honest, videos are even worse than digital photos to look after.
Yeah. Yes.
But yes, of course, they are valuable in terms of because you have the sound that comes with it.
Yeah.
And to have a person talk and have their voice on recording, that can be a very, very precious thing. And obviously this is something we can't have with prints because it's a piece of paper with some ink on it, We don't have voice. But videos, that's a whole
another episode?
Yes, you're opening a can of worms there,
I'm
Amy.
Close that can of worms. And I'm going to start this discussion today with a listener dilemma for you.
Okay.
And this one's from Susie, and she popped this in our Facebook community. She said, I need help getting started. I have 9,000 digital photos to manage from the last 15 years, starting from when I was pregnant with our first child, who's now 14. I want to delete a lot of them, and from what's remaining, I want to select an even smaller group to make photo books, one for each year. How do I get started? I don't really want to do this, but I feel like it needs to be done. So she's wanting to, we kind of ended last week's episode with talking about going physical from digital. And we talked about ways to kind of get those highlighted or hearted or star rated photos into the photo book. How does she know whether she does it by year, by person, by event? Do you start right back 15 years ago for Susie? Does she start with last year? How does she tackle such a big project?
Oh, look, as so often with photos, there's no real right or wrong. It can be very individual. One thing I'd like to mention here is for most people, probably, I don't have any numbers to, support that, but I think for most people, a chronological order in photos, whether they be print or digital, is the most logical approach. So, yes, for example, by year. But other people, they think more in events or topics.
Right.
And especially for photo books, I find topics is great. So let's say you've got, you mentioned basketball, right, in your family with the kids. So you could do a book that is basketball related or whatever your family enjoys doing. Like, me, I like to do, I'm a hiker. I like to go bushwalking. I like nature. So I could do a book based on that.
Yeah.
When you travel, you do travel books of specific trips. I've just done, because our oldest, he graduated from school last year, and for his 18th birthday, I made a photo book for him. Memories of his first 18 years. So obviously that was person related. That was photos with him in each and every photo he was part of. Some, just him, others with family. So within the book I had topics. One was family. One was fun times where I put like those silly shots. One was school related. One was sports related, traveling the world, things like that. So I had about 24 topics that I put in there, and it was just amazing. So you can do whatever works for you. And now for Susie, don't put too much pressure on you. It is time consuming. And on the other hand, also, we talked about in the digital world, all that metadata with the rating and love hearting and whatnot. Obviously, when you've done that, when your collection is well curated, it's a lot easier to do all those projects, because finding the photos, choosing the photos for projects, that's usually what I find is the most time consuming part. And if you're not organized, that takes even more time. But you can still do books, even if you're not 100% organized. It doesn't have to be perfectly curated before you do your first book. And you can start either with the newest, like last year, or you can say, okay, I'm going to go back and start, with pregnancy, first year and things like that. Some people also choose to do calendar years, and when it's child related, some people choose to do, they start counting when the child was born.
Yeah. So
and take like that year. Yes, age-based. Yeah.
I think what I'm hearing both from Susie and in your answer is that with physical photos and digital photos, there's two stages, or maybe even three. There's the acquisition, there's the curation, and there's like the use. So the acquisition's fine. We're all very good at that. But the curation is like that decluttering side of it. Yeah. And so if you can develop some type of habit around the decluttering of your photos, I think that's really good. One of the challenges that I hear with a lot of my clients is I've now got photos from my mum or my auntie or another family member, and they're all physical. And then I've got my own physical photos from pre-digital years. Do I go through and just scan all of them? Do I go through and curate it first and just get rid of the ones of people I don't know, random trees and beach scenes that I can just Google that? Do you kind of go through that physical stuff first and then scan it in, or do you just keep it as a physical? Is there, what's the benefit of actually scanning and creating a digital copy?
Yeah. So firstly, yes, you absolutely go through them first and declutter as much as you can. Now, there's different approaches. So you mentioned you have possibly, inherited photos. That usually means that, the person who took them might not be around anymore and you can't talk to them. But let's say, you still have your parents and they have boxes and boxes of photos, probably with you, baby photos and growing up and whatnot. I actually like to do that with them. So it's like, a project you do together, because it's I've done it myself with my mum, and it was one of the most beautiful experiences. And I heard stories that I had never heard before. There were tears, there were laughter. It was really, you connect on you're already connected usually to your parents on a really deep level, but this makes it even more deeper and special. I found it a real special experience. So if you can, and do that and go through them, and also from experience, I know the trees, the beaches, this has all ended up in the bin.
Yeah.
We have reduced, it's the people that are important. And it is interesting. It's very individual again. If it's your own photos that you took, it might be easier, it might be harder. Depends how sentimental someone is. But also, one little trick I did, or not I did, but we sort of, when I did that with Mom, the idea was that she declutters and I scan at the same time. And turns out that didn't work. She was like, I can't do, can you hold the photos for me? And I say yes, no, yes, no. And we did that, and it was very efficient, and it was a lot easier for her then to make that decision, because as I said before, that what I like about physical photos, they're tangible, you can touch them, but that also gives you that extra more, that gives you more connection, because you can touch the thing. It's like any other, it's like when I hold up that top in my wardrobe, if I want to declutter and you decide, that's easier. But when you touch it, it's already much harder for most people. It's the same with photos. So sometimes it does help to have someone with you who helps you go through that process. And I found with decluttering physical photos, a lot of people are actually, sometimes I'm astonished how easy they throw them out. And others, they hold on to almost everything. But if you decide to scan, if you scan just, the whole thing, honestly, I think it's a waste of money. There's no point in scanning every photo.
Because and I wonder if there's some people that need to see them digitally in order to get rid of them, but surely you can, I think when we did it, so what we've done, Chantal, is we've done a really big curate of our physical photos, but I haven't ever scanned them. The reason is that the photos, when the kids were little, we used to get photos printed a lot. And so I've got a digital copy, and so they're just kind of there. But the photos like pre-2000 are all physical. And because I'm not so sentimental, I'm like, is that a project I really can be bothered doing? Because it's not something I would want my kids to have to do either. I don't. Maybe what I need to do is actually find the ones, like a couple of wedding photos that I want to make digital, because we don't have any digital copies of those. You asked before, should I scan? Why should I scan? And there's no, as to the why, there are clear answers. So one can be, but again, it's very individual, as we hear. If you're worried of losing them, you need to digitize them so that you've got a backup copy. That's one reason. Another reason can be why you want to scan is because that allows you to share them. That's a great point.
And then we come back to this stuff we talked about before, or in the last episode, with how to enjoy your photos. So that sharing is part of the enjoyment, and sometimes it gives you joy if you can share a photo from you. Like, I've scanned my photos, like everything is now scanned, like they're teenage photos, like, with the permed hair and the cool fashion in the 80s. I'm giving away my age, but who cares? So, it's like, and there's my best school friend in that picture, and I can send it to you,
That's
send a quick
brilliant.
text, and I know, you're bringing a smile to their face. And that's also the joy, and that's the joy of sharing. So that can be a reason. For some people, and you clearly don't belong to them, but some people, they love family history, and it's their hobby, and genealogy and whatnot. So they're of course keen to have at least some of those photos scanned, like as you say, for example, a wedding photo. But you don't need 10 wedding photos. One might be enough. So you can pick and choose what is important, or photos, from grand or great parents or something like that, whatever. But you don't need dozens. You probably don't even have them, because at these times you didn't take that many photos.
And I think when the kids are little, you've got, like we do, so many photos.
Too many.
As they become teenagers, so mine both started back at school this week.
Yes.
And I had to promise them that I wouldn't ask them to post another photo together for another 12 months in order to get them to stand next to each other and fake smile. And I didn't share it on socials because they're like, oh, why do you need it? It's not a special year. It's year 9 and 11. There's nothing special about it. Because I'm your mum. And I want a photo to remember, oh, yeah, that's what they looked like, and that's the height difference, and all of those things. I wonder if, as they get older, because what I've noticed in my house and in all my friends' houses is there's photos on the wall, but there's none from the last 10 years. They are all of everyone 10, 15 years ago.
Yes.
And I'm 100% guilty of that. I do not have a photo in my house of a teenage child.
Yeah, me
They're
neither.
all like preschoolers, maybe up to maybe 6 or 7, and that's it. Do you think that maybe the printing and putting photos on the wall stage is over?
I don't know. It might be a question of age. I mean, when you go into a household that has, elderly people, they would have probably more photos on the wall than we do. And myself, I don't have many photos framed or on the wall as a photo organizer.
But you have access to all of them.
But and we talked about the digital photo frame last week, and this is my favorite because then I don't always have to look at the same picture. I'm someone who needs change. I shouldn't say I hate routine. I do love routine, but it also bores me quickly. So I need to change things again. So if I see the same thing over and over again, it gets sort of boring. And then it's just there and gathers dust. And it doesn't bring that. And it doesn't bring that same enjoyment than, my digital photo frame, where I see fresh photos from time to time. And really, they bring a smile to my face. But that's, again, it's very personal,
It is, and I think I want to issue a challenge. And Chantal, you're going to have to wait 1 second while I grab something. Hold on, stay there. The listeners will know what I'm grabbing, and I'm making lots of noise when I come back because I need to do a bit of this.
Yes.
So the yes button for the podcast is when I'm talking about something or a guest is talking about something and I'm like, oh, I need to do that. So the challenge that I'm about to drop for everybody is a massive yes for me. So what I'm thinking, listeners, is I want all of us to do a mindful walk through our homes and only focus on framed pictures. And you might find that you've got more than you thought you actually had, and the photos are so old. Because we call it our wall of shame. So we've got one hallway in the house and it's got photos on it, but it's also got like kids' artwork.
Right.
And when they were little, they'd bring home really lovely artwork and we'd just put it in the frame. And then when they brought home another piece of artwork, just put it on top. So there's, 5 or 6 artworks in the frame. There's a bootie that my grandma knitted for my firstborn. So it's not just photos, but it is a lot of photos. And it's like of my grandma and of our wedding and different things. But I think it might be time for all of us to walk through our home with fresh eyes and go, is that framed picture adding value anymore? or would I want something else? So do I want to get a digital frame where I can enjoy fresh photos? So we're in Australia. Is Kmart the best place just to get your digital photos printed? Or are there, like, how do you do that anymore?
You're asking me something there. Look, I've never really done, because I don't really print a lot of photos.
No, you do the
so you can basically print them anywhere. Look, to put them in a frame, who cares whether it's, Kmart is probably not the best quality, to be honest.
No, it doesn't matter.
Neither is Snapfish and all that cheap stuff. But, it's better than nothing. And the question is, does it matter or not? I mean, there are professional... not that they are unprofessional, but there are other more studio quality, real high quality prints, but you pay 10 times the price.
Correct.
So it always depends what do you need it for.
Yeah.
But there's countless, you can use Kmart, Harvey Norman, Big W, Target. I don't know who they're, the camera stores do it. You can go so many places still.
I clearly haven't done it for a very long time. There's been a resurgence. I've noticed with a lot of my boys' friends that they have those current Polaroids effectively where they've got the instant print.
Yeah.
And I think there is some value to that because I've seen a lot of, and particularly teenage girls, I haven't seen this in, not that I'm in teenage boys' bedrooms because I just drop them at the door and say hello to the parents. But the girls seem to have those just stuck on the wall. Yeah. And I actually really like that. It's not framed. It's not permanent. It's just a snapshot of me now.
Yeah. And it's
that can
fun.
be a way to enjoy it.
Yes, totally.
Yeah.
So, and it is, when we talk about photos generally, so with prints, yes, we do recommend to scan them, but be really selective, declutter as much as you can, archive those prints properly, and then enjoy them. And because if you scan them and then they just come into your digital photo hub, as I call it, your other archive in the computer, well, we haven't changed anything really apart from having decluttered maybe and scanned them, but now they sit on a hard drive and you never look at them. So it doesn't really matter whether they sit at the back of a dark cupboard somewhere in the house and you do nothing, or whether they sit in the computer and nobody looks at them ever and completely feeling, overwhelmed. Yeah. So we want to get them out, whether they're prints or digital, and do something with them. And that's where the curation and the selection comes in, because you can't do something with 40,000 photos. It's too much. So, much. Get rid of, declutter, cull, nobody wants, and when you take it a step further, what are you about to leave? What's your legacy? What's your photo legacy? You don't want to leave your kids 100,000 photos, because guess what they're going to do? They're probably going to delete them because they're completely overwhelmed. Yeah. They don't know what to do with them. They might miss them because they sit on a computer they can't access when you're gone, or whatever. There's so many. So this is another aspect of photos that goes deeper, of course, and the whole storytelling part, why we take photos in the first place. So what do you want to leave? That. And that's where what comes in, what you mentioned before. Maybe just scan that wedding photo or scan a photo. You can come up with your own rule. Scan one photo per year when you grew up.
That's great.
And that might be enough for your kids to have one photo of you, from your birth onwards.
Such freedom in that.
They don't need countless pictures. They're never ever going to do anything with them. But it might be fun to have a few photos from you when you were a kid, because they find it hilarious anyway. They're
like, oh my gosh, Mum, your hair. We thought your hair's buffy now. You should have seen it in the 80s when it got brushed.
It's good fun.
So one last question I have, and this might be a super easy answer, is the best way to scan using an actual flatbed scanner, or can you just use the scanning app on your phone? Or is it dependent on the quality that you want? No,
it
you're
depends.
like about to shrivel up when I
Yeah.
suggested the scanning app
Like,
on the phone.
cringing. No. No, please don't use a phone app. The reason is not that the app as such is bad, but the phone camera, yes, they're good, and the scan might look great on your phone, but when you compare it to a proper scan, yeah, you can't compare it. It's not good. But sometimes it does call, you might need a quick solution. I've done it myself, and that's okay. And again, it depends what do you use it for.
Yeah.
But yes, so flatbeds are good. There are a specific photo scanner because your printer at home that also scans is made to scan documents in the first place and not photos. Yes, you can scan photos, and yes, it's still better than a phone. But there are photo scanners, and the latest state of the art digitizing actually is camera scanning, but not with the phone, but with a proper good camera and the right light stands and whatnot. So Fiona from Photo Helper, who does the podcast with me, she has specialized in that. And you basically take a photo of a photo, and it's maximum quality, and it might not be as expensive as people think. So, it can be outsourced, or scanning as such on a flatbed is not difficult.
Yeah.
You need to make sure you've got the right settings, and then you scan away. It just takes forever.
Yeah.
There are
so maybe
also
that one per year is not a bad idea. And if you're doing one per year, just outsource it to someone who's going to do
absolutely.
good quality.
Yeah.
And I think, listeners, if you've got, I'm sure there will be some of you who are like, oh my goodness, you've just opened my eyes to the world of possibility. The good news is Chantal knew you were coming. And her and Fiona do have an amazing backlog of episodes. Photo organizing is not something we specialize in at the Art of Decluttering. And so it is important to have partners who you can say, that's not my specialty, and send people to the right. Because when I first started out as a professional organizer, I felt like I needed to be good at everything or I would let my clients down. But very quickly, I learned that they actually appreciate me saying, I can do that, but it's better value for your money. You're going to get better outcomes by going to this person. And so that's what we do.
That's what we do. We love collaborating, don't we?
We do. It's so good. I love our industry.
Yeah, it is.
It's the best.
It is a good one. Yeah.
Thank you, Chantal. Is there anything I've missed? I mean, let me start again. Is there anything that I've missed that is helpful to fit in like 60 seconds? Because I've missed a lot, but anything critical that you're like, I've been busting to say that?
I don't know. Look, I could go on forever. Maybe we talk just 60 seconds about storing your prints.
Oh, yes, please. I actually had a question about that.
Okay.
My question was, this is what I wrote down, albums versus snap-lock bags, because I'm a snap-lock bag person and my mum's an album person, and is there other options? What's best? How do you not make them go really manky?
Yeah, look, both options are great, and they are actually the Ziploc bags. They are of archival quality. Yeah. So they're not going to damage your photos. That's a great, easy, quick way to organize your photos, to keep them bundled. Much better than don't use rubber bands or clips and things like that ever. Another option is there are archival quality boxes that you can store. So you basically stand your photos into, in the box. So they stand there, and you can use dividers to label them. That's another good way. Or the albums, and there's so many different albums. There's the dry man albums, like or scrapbooking for those who are very creative. There's just the simple slip-in albums. They all work for archival purpose too. So it's again personal preference. If you do like to look at them from time to time and leaf through an album, go that way. If you scan them all and you just keep them as a backup, you put them in an archival box at the back, in your cupboard, somewhere dry and dark, and not in your garage under the house or in the roof. That's the wrong place to keep them.
It's
and
a
then
special level of
there.
devastation that people feel when I open up a box and there's moldy photos.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, so I literally just keep them in a Snaplock bag in a shoebox, or a box that looks like a shoebox in the back of my wardrobe.
That's fine.
Okay, that's all right. Good.
Easy. Don't overthink.
I didn't have to push my yes button for that, but I am going to do a wander through my house, see what's in frames, take some of those out, take the photos out of the frame if I want to keep it and donate the frame, or if I want to keep nothing of it, put the photo in the bin, donate the frame.
And by the way, the photos, you do have to put them in the bin. You can't recycle them.
Good. Because it's the coating on the photo, isn't it? Yeah. Amazing. Oh, Chantal, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I love talking to you. Listeners, I hope that that's been really helpful. As I said, everything will be linked in the show notes if you do have more questions. I was going to read out some reviews, but I tell you what, why don't you just jump on your podcast app and leave a review for the Art of Decluttering podcast? And while you're doing that, you can flick through and read the other reviews that have been left rather than me reading it out, because it feels a bit weird reading out reviews about myself. And I think I'm going to stop doing it because I feel weird and I don't need to do it. So go and find them yourself. But please leave a review. That does help people to find, especially in the new feed that the podcast is in. Chantal, thank you again.
I have to thank. It was so much fun.
It really was. I've got a big smile on my face. Listeners, I'll be back next week. And until then, enjoy the freedom. I would like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people, who are the traditional custodians of the land this podcast is recorded on. I would also like to pay respects to their elders, both past and present, of the Kulin Nation, and extend that respect to other Indigenous Australians. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed today's episode, I would love you to rate and review the show on your podcast app. That will help others to find the Art of Decluttering podcast as well. If you'd like any more information, you can visit theartofdecluttering.com.au, and I would love to see you in my Facebook group. Just search the Art of Decluttering community on Facebook and join today. I hope that you have an incredible rest of your day and enjoy the freedom.